The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
You got a friend in me. I said, you got a friend in me.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, co-host of Locked On Canucks and also a Canucks writer currently with Daily Hive Vancouver. Before we dive into the show, we got to thank you for tuning into Locked On Canucks because, hey, we're nothing without you, the fans, and we're also not here without the sponsors, baby. And today's episode is brought to you by Kyle's Hangover Cure, man. Unbelievable. I don't know what you did yesterday, man, but you were rocking and rolling. No, today's episode is brought to you by college football playoffs, okay? College football playoffs are here, and you don't want to miss a moment of the action. The college football playoff is presented by Allstate, and it begins with 4 first-round games December 20th and 21st on ESPN, ABC, TNT, and Max. The Canucks, man, they brought a maximum effort last night, but they might need some maximum relationship building heading into the postseason, and we got to talk about it today. The Vancouver Canucks, 2 of their stars on their team, Elias, Pettersson, JT Miller. A lot of smoke about these guys in the market. But the big question for me is, can the Canucks win a Stanley Cup with both JT Miller and Elias Pettersson? Let's dive a bit into where we're at with these players right now and other teammates who hated each other. Were they able to get past it and help their team win a Stanley Cup? We'll also get into more roster moves that the Vancouver Canucks made today and talk about, are the Vancouver Canucks good again after last night? Again, this is one of the most confusing teams in the NHL, and we'll try to break it down. 2 bozos try to break it down for you here on Locked On Canucks. Speaking of bozos, let me introduce my co-host, Kyle Bowen. How you doing, brother?
Bozo Bowen, man. That'd be a good name for a dog. Straight up, man. Bozo I feel like it would be like a pug or something, you know?
Yeah.
Straight up.
Yeah,
Bozo
sense.
the pug. Anyways, Kyle Bowen, Trevor Beggs at the Don't Doze Art Lab, giving you Locked On Canucks. One love to the West Coast bias that we deliver here. And one love to your neighbors, okay? It's the holidays. Be extra nice to the strangers that, you see with your own eyes. That's how you change the world. Speaking of the opposite of that, right? Miller, Pettersson, they see each other every day. Miller, Pettersson, not seeing each other on the power play anymore. And some people are just connecting the two and making it seem very emotional. Like, oh, now JT Miller can't play with Elias Pettersson. And that's why we have to do this episode. Because it's like, yo, if you're a Canucks fan, and I'm kind of talking to you, Trevor Beggs, if you're thinking that they're not on the same power play unit because there's something going on in the room, then you best believe that this core and this coaching staff will never win a Stanley Cup. Not because those 2 individuals can't play together, but because that's the type of immaturity that they're dealing with and also connecting with, as Nick Bondi, the creator of Locked On Canucks, once said, right? You can't babysit the scenario. You just got to prioritize winning no matter what. And I know that's what this core does. I know that's what the top of the staff does as well with Rick Tocchet and Adam Foote. It's not happening, okay? If Miller and Pettersson are not getting along, I'm telling you, it's not the biggest reason why they're not in the power play, okay? Together. Because they can't pass to each other anymore. Well, what's going on? We can't be that emotional. We can't be that small-minded. That being said, Elliot Friedman, right? Last year. Was it last year? Was it 2 years ago? Elliot Friedman, Elias Pettersson on a beach. Elias Pettersson, touching on the whole relationship with JT Miller. And yeah, it's, they're probably not going to the same Christmas dinner, okay? It's the way it is. But all in all, I still definitely do believe that these 2 competitive forces, when at their best on different lines, can help this team win a Stanley Cup. And honestly, I think it's a must with these 2, because if it's not with these 2, then who's it with? Dylan Cousins? Yeah, right.
Yeah, F that, man. Elliot Friedman, unbelievable stuff. Let's talk about the power play and break it down. Then I want to go a bit bigger picture. So in terms of the power play, I think for me, it makes sense unemotionally to split those 2 guys up on the power play. The power play, they're on a bit of a hot streak while Miller was gone. All of a sudden he comes back and they have a bad game or 2. It makes sense again to have those separate power play units. And I think in general, just there's been a lot of inconsistency with the power plays. So I like the idea of having a 1A and a 1B unit. But what we saw last night wasn't really a 1A and a 1B unit. It was, Hughes, Pettersson, and the big dogs, Besser, Garland, DeBrusk. And then it was Hughes stay out for the full 2 minutes, which is fine, JT Miller. And then you got Sherwood and Heinen and Suter. To me, that just doesn't make a lot of sense. And I know maybe it's overthinking, but like my head first went to, why is Miller on the second unit, like with all these B and C level players? Like, why not spread out the wealth a bit more evenly? Like DeBrusque,
B and C
Pettersson, and
level
Sherwood
players though.
have more chemistry.
He's with Suter, who's leading. Isn't Suter and like Sherwood number 2 and 3 in goals for this team? And Hughes is still on the ice too. Like it's not the worst power play unit. Like I think the Danton Heine thing is questionable, but I don't know, Trevor. I thought this is what you wanted, man. Come on, Begsy. I
wanted a 1A and a 1B, not a 1 and a 2. You know what I mean? I just think, you got to throw someone like Besser or Garland on that second unit with Miller and Hughes. I know Suter's scored a lot of goals. His shooting percentage is high. He's not and has never been a power play guy. Kiefer Sherwood, I think, deserves the opportunity, but for me, I'd probably put in Suter on the unit with DeBrusque and Pettersson, 2 players that he's shown chemistry with, and have probably Brock Besser play with JT Miller on the second unit because those two have chemistry. Besser's been really good at the net front as well. That's probably how I would do it. But yeah, it's just, again, peeling back the tea leaves, ever since Rick Tocchet came to Vancouver, JT Miller and Elias Pettersson, aside from the power play and being on opposite sides of the ice, have not really played together, right? There was that one little 6 or 7 game stretch of the Lotto line when he first came in. But aside from that, he's chosen to keep them apart. And I think for a long time, the rationale has been, they're 2 of the best players in the team, spread out the wealth, have them on different lines. That all makes sense. But, when you have things go on like, what's transpired here in the past few months, and again, we don't really know what's happened, but these 2 are not really playing together at all. We know that Miller's gone after Pettersson in practice. We know that they've been asked about the relationship.
Dude, but Trevor, it has nothing to do. Yo, bro, if it has like their friendship, I'm telling you, has nothing to do with them not playing together on the ice. Absolutely nothing. No team in professional sports would operate like that, man. Crazy, because you don't want athletes on. No, well, I think teams would if those teams didn't have Stanley Cup aspirations, but you best believe that this team that has to lean on Pettersson and Miller are not doubling down on both these guys over the last year and a half, thinking that they're also immature. Like they'd let their emotions in the room dictate what's best for the team on the ice. There's no chance. Zero. It's absolutely zero. I'm telling you, and if you actually believe it, then you actually, in my mind, subconsciously are thinking that this team will never win a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, and I'm not necessarily thinking that, but I do think it's more complicated than that. And we know JT Miller is a fiery, emotional guy, and Pettersson has seemed to be mentally rattled on a couple of occasions this year. So no, I think going back to the bigger question about can the Canucks win the Stanley Cup with Miller and Pettersson, I think the answer is yes.
Of course.
And you look back at history, and there's other teammates who haven't liked each other, who have gone on to do big things. And as I kind of dug into it, this team didn't win the Stanley Cup, but one of the big examples was the Buffalo Sabres in the 1990s with Dominik Hasek. Dominik Hasek was pretty infamously disliked by a number of his teammates, a bit different when it's a goalie. But apparently the vibes in Buffalo were really off for a long time. And then Lindy Ruff came in the late 90s, kind of righted the ship. Sometimes having the right coach in place can make a difference, Kyle. And that kind of goes back to Rick Tocchet here in Vancouver. Managing the team, managing personality is a big part of the job. And would you give Rick Tocchet a passing grade for that work so far this season?
Yeah, I think if you ask me after a loss, and that's how emotional I am right now, I say, you know what? I would give him a C-. But then you ask me after a win, and because you look at the record and it kind of looks a little sweeter. You're kind of like, okay, yeah, he's on B plus. Like he's still, it's like his second year coaching. Like a lot of personalities, a lot of talent, and I think he's done well. Again, we're coming off a Sherwood hat trick, bro. I'm happy right now. I woke up smiling. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like again, when the Canucks win games, my internet habits at the end of the night are so different. Okay, I'm watching the Canucks highlights again. That's how I'm going to sleep, rather than sleeping with the devil, if you know what I'm saying. Okay, where am I going with this? Yeah, let's talk about management relations, because I want to dive into that more. But let's not use Rick Tocchet again. Let's use something again that Nick Bondi brought up. Let us know in the comments if you guys want Nick Bondi back, because I want Nick Bondi back. All he needs is 3 people saying, "Yo, we need Bondi back," and he'll do an episode. But he told us that he kind of wants more from Quentin Hughes when it comes to managing relationships in the room, and you had a rebuttal to that. Tell that to the people.
Sorry, I don't know my rebuttal. What were you talking about?
Remember you said that you didn't think that like that's Quinn Hughes' job. Like it's not his job as the captain of the team. Because Bondi was like, "Yo, why does the coach just have to manage these relationships? Like, why can't like the captain, the leader, Quinn Hughes be that guy?" And
I think some captains, think some captains are like that, but especially in Vancouver, we've had a lot of captains that aren't like that. Like, I don't think Henrik Sedin's a rah-rah guy who's going in and managing relationships. I'm pretty positive Quinn Hughes isn't that guy either. He's a guy that, leans on just working his ass off on the ice. So, yeah, I think it does kind of go down to, the bigger personalities in the room. Like, again, I know a guy behind the scenes like Tyler Myers is, a vocal leader in that room, and he's well respected in that locker room. Like, he's probably doing more of that relationship management than a guy like Quinn Hughes, for instance. But at the end of the day, you do got to figure out, because there can be divides in rooms. I know, Kyle, you and I have both been in locker rooms before as well, and I think that's the one thing you don't want is for guys to be divided and start picking sides over something. So I'm not saying that's the case in Vancouver, but again, let's just see this team now that JT Miller and Pettersson are back. Let's see them rip it up with them both performing, and that's going to ease any questions in my mind, because this has been a worse than we expected start, let's call it, for the Vancouver Canucks. But I'm still pretty optimistic overall. Again, the team is 16-9-5. They're still in the playoff position. I think there's better days ahead. And I'm curious what they're going to do over Christmas here. Leading up to Christmas, got some big games, which we'll touch on as well. But I'm still believing this team with JT Miller and Elias Pettersson. Again, a lot of smoke, a lot of trade rumors, but I think the Canucks, they're probably going to lose a trade if they trade either one of those guys.
There you go. I like how you nailed it on that head, like straight up. That's the premise here. It cannot right away get better than this. There's no way. There's no way. No trade. None of that. You can't, especially when you're talking about your top two lines, your top two centermen, and specifically speaking, I think yesterday is a good game to refer to and thinking about what these two can do for this team when they're going, because they didn't pick up any points, but again, they set the tone. JT Miller all game long was a POS. JT Miller also, last time I checked, and I think Pettersson was doing quite a bit of this too, if I'm correct. Maybe not a bit, but he was out on the ice sometimes with McKinnon. But those two did it. They locked him down. That's not an outlier. That's not an anomaly. It's because they have that in their DNA. When they're competing, when they're skating hard, both those guys were just completely engaged. And Miller was connecting on a lot of his body checks. Pettersson tried a couple times, but again, they were setting the tone when it came to their effort. And again, just locking down one of the best players in hockey, the second best player in hockey, for real. And that's not only impressive, but that's kind of what's going to separate us from other teams if we're talking about this version of the Vancouver Canucks in year 2 or in month like 17 of them being good and them having some hope. And using that hope to get to a Stanley Cup. Like, Miller and Pettersson have to set the tone, and I definitely want to see that for a large stretch of time on separate lines. That I want to see the trickle down effect, right? Pettersson's going, Miller's going, and then it's Suter, and then it's Bluger, and then it's Sherwood, and then it's it's Garland on his own line. Like, that's being effective, and honestly, that could create a miracle, man. Like, if the Canucks only acquire one defenseman, because I still think the Canucks need two to really, really contend. But let's say they only get one. Let's say they get none. So I still think with Quinn Hughes and really, really good goaltending, and again, a 1-2 punch like that, giving this forward group a base to just execute off of, can lead to a miracle, aka the Canucks winning a Stanley Cup.
Hell yeah, brother. And let us know in the comments what you think. Can the Canucks win a Stanley Cup with Miller and Pettersson on the team? Or do you think one of them gets traded before that ever happens, or leave the team for whatever reason? Again, hit us up in the comments, either live or after the fact. Again, you listen to Locked On Canucks, your Canucks every damn day. We'll be back on the other side talking about, are the Canucks actually good again? Because it's been a lot of inconsistency and confusion with this team. We're also touching on a couple of roster moves made today by the Vancouver Canucks, including calling up a couple of players who have yet to suit up for the team this season. We'll be back on the other side after shouting at our friends over at Bilt Rewards and Select Quote. Today's episode is sponsored by Bilt Rewards. If you're a renter, listen the F up, all right? This is a total game changer. Thanks to Bilt, you can now earn points on rent payments just like you do for groceries or travel. Paying rent now comes with serious perks, and it's completely free to join, man. Earn valuable Bilt points on your rent everyday spending at no extra cost. Redeem points for flights, hotel stays, and even future rent payments with over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels in the program. The possibilities are endless, baby. You can also access unique experiences that are exclusive to Bilt members. So go check it out now. Start earning points on rent that you're already paying by going to joinbuilt.com/lockedonnhl. That's joinbuilt.com/lockedonnhl. Make sure to use the link so that they know we sent you, and don't wait to start earning rewards today. the World Series, the Super Bowl, the Olympics. The world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing: teamwork, baby. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. Select Quote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's end zone. Other life insurance brokers offer impersonal, one-size-fits-all policies that may cost you more and cover less. But Select Quote, they ain't like that, okay? Their licensed agents work for you to tailor a life insurance policy for your individual needs in as little as 15 minutes, okay? And if you're in good health, Select Quote, they work with carriers that can get you same-day coverage for up to $5 million. No medical exam required, and that means no finger up the you-know-what. And I'm talking about the what? Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/LockedOnNHL. Go to selectquote.com/LockedOnNHL today to get started. That's selectquote.com/LockedOnNHL.
People, we back doing this. Kyle Bound, Trevor Beggs, Locked On Canucks, and we're reading some comments, man. Okay, so this was from last night's episode, okay? Kiefer Sherwood and Barry Trotz saving the Vancouver Canucks. Check it out if you're bored. This comes from Sound for Soul, okay? And Sound for Soul, sometimes he's been wrong, but sometimes he's been right, okay? So this guy might be an angel. And I'm kind of scared to read this comment, but he said, sorry, y'all. As long as Pettersson is on the team, we will not win a cup. Okay, he has absolutely no heart and no drive. Wonder why JT was taken off the first power play. He can't stand being on the same ice with Pettersson. No reason to take JT off that line. Pettersson has to get moved now. Look at this comment. And this comes from Mother Nucker. This is an emotional episode. Maybe we should go off the air right now. But Mother Nucker saying that he heard that Pettersson has to get dressed in a different locker room, in the ref's locker room, because of the tension between him and Miller, man. Unreal, dude. This is I swear to you, if my girlfriend listened to every single episode of Locked On Canucks, she'd probably break up with me because, dude, I'm all over the place, man. I'm all over the place here. What are we doing here?
Yeah, it's been an interesting week on Locked On Canucks with the Sabres wanting to trade for Pettersson and now Miller and Pettersson. But, there's obviously smoke to both the situations, right? And I don't want to overblow it and say, like, Pettersson's getting traded to Buffalo or Pettersson and Miller hate each other, but there are tea leaves to read into in both situations, right? And in terms of Sound for Soul's comment about Pettersson having, like, no heart and no drive, I just think that's not true in the slightest, man. You don't become a 100-point player in the NHL with no heart and no drive. The guy won MVP in Sweden as a teenager, right? Like, he's a hell of a hockey player. It's not just all skill. You can get by on skill to a certain amount. Like, I was thinking about teammates who don't like each other. Alex Mogilny is a guy who, was disliked reportedly in a number of different cities because, he had weird requests and he wouldn't show up to practice. And he was a guy who kind of operated a lot just purely on skill. But I don't see that with Pettersson at all. I mean, just look at the fact that he's adding, like, hitting to his repertoire. The fact that he works so hard on his defensive game. I think sometimes these European players, and it's a bit of an old, like, Don Cherry era kind of mentality, but sometimes these European players get like too much slack or too much criticism from fans.
Yeah.
Because maybe they're not as, fiery and emotional and as physical as, guys like JT Miller and the Canadians out there. So,
wow. So what are you calling Sound for Soul? Like, do you want to, you can use the word. Okay. We won't go there.
Sound for Soul is being emotional, man. His name's Sound for Soul, but so it kind of makes sense.
Oh, man. Don Cherry, man. What if he ran for Prime Minister of Canada, man? Don Cherry and Donald Trump, man. They would definitely merge the country. Okay, you know what? Kyle Bound, Trevor Beggs. The Canucks, are they good again? And again, I refer to my girlfriend, maybe listen to the show, maybe her thinking like I would need therapy based on what I've been doing the last 7 days, what I've been doing the last 14, like, ever since the Pittsburgh game. Okay, I think that was 21 days ago. I've just been all over the place with this team because I literally am so confused. I'm so confused. And I think it's right for Canucks fans to demand a 2-game winning streak on this back-to-back, to extend this winning streak in general to 3 games, okay? Utah and Vegas coming up next. And I think we got Ottawa on Saturday. Handle Utah and then handle Vegas. The only reason I would be okay if they did not do well in Vegas, like if they got their ass kicked in Vegas, but then there was like photos that came out after of Pettersson and Miller just ripping it up in the casinos and just like having a good old time, I'd be okay with it. That's a moral win. All in all, though, I want 2 wins here, man.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'll take a split and you can call me a baby, you can call me a loser. I know Philippine Lob in the comments saying wah wah wah, Canuck fans making up issues, and well, wah wah wah, I only want 1 win because I'm a loser. But I it's gonna be a tough little stretch. I mean, Utah's pushing for a wild card spot right now. They're nipping on the Canucks' heels a little bit. After a hot start, they cooled off, and now they're climbing back up there, and they got some good players. And then Vegas is still one of the best teams in the NHL, and the Vegas Golden Knights rink T-Mobile Arena has not been kind to the Vancouver Canucks over the years here. So
that's
they got both tough games, and it's a back-to-back. So if the Canucks get 1 win and look good or competitive in both games, like, to me, that's a win.
Bro, come on, they got the ultimate home ice advantage, especially in December. Like the way, I can only speak for myself and the people around me. I feel as if maybe this is an age thing too, 31 and a half years old, but everyone around me is just coasting in December, It's like, yo, we're just like, more dinners, a couple glasses of wine here and there. Like, we're just chilling out, end of the year vibes, right? You're probably feeling the same way, right? Now the Canucks are going to Vegas. Everyone but Hronek. I'm pretty sure Hronek's going to make this trip, though, for real, okay? They're all going to be there. And maybe they're going to sally hard after a 2-game winning streak, right? If they beat Utah and they travel to Vegas, to do the math. It's going to be tough, like you said. But here's the thing, Trevor. I know a lot of people, and I think I'm speaking for the majority of the fan base, actually, because, again, we're realistic and we're smart, and we know it's about the process. They just want to see this team play good hockey games. Really good hockey games. Like, just play for 60 minutes. And if they do that tomorrow, like if they play Utah against Utah the way they played against Florida and Colorado, we'll be happy. We'll probably pick up a point. Hey, we'll pick up 2, but we'll be happy. Going into Vegas, let's say they do struggle a bit, there's still a chance there for them to win games because, touch on it, it's either going to be Demko or Lankinen. And I have no problem saying that the Canucks, more often than not, in 99.9% of the games, I don't think they play Winnipeg a lot of times, they're going to have some of the best goaltending in hockey. So there's a chance.
Yeah, well, there's certainly a chance. And, are the Canucks good again? Like, look at these stats over the past 10 games, Kyle. The Canucks are, sorry, I shouldn't say the last 10 games. I'm looking at the last month, right? So since November 17th, over the last 14 games, they're 7-5-2. They are second last in the league with 23.8 shots on net, but they're averaging 3.21 goals per game. They're giving up close to 30 shots a game. So they're getting on average, they're being outshot 30-23, yet they're 7-5-2. And a big reason for that is because of the goaltending. So, look, I still need to see a longer stretch before I'm convinced this team's good again. But the performances against Colorado and Florida were encouraging. And, you could tie together the fact that maybe in the Boston game, the flu was going through the team if you want to buy into that narrative. But
no, I don't.
For me, it was such a stinker. It was so disappointing. The guys obviously were healthy enough to played. So, I still want to see a longer stretch from this team before I'm going to say that they're good again. But I'm encouraged, and it's still early. I believe this team can get better.
So answer the question then. Like, how did they become good again? Keep it simple, because the reason why I think, again, I'm being magical and spiritual with it, but the reason why I think we're moving on our way up is, again, Lankin and Demko, that being a thing. That's the base. That's a good base to have for any good hockey team. But again, immediately after they get their ass kicked by the Bruins, and it feels like Rick Tocchet had enough. We can kind of get that vibe off of him, right? And then he's taking shots to the media, and then at the same, well, not taking shots. He didn't take shots. If Rick Tocchet heard me there, he'd definitely drive over here and kick my ass. Okay, he didn't take any shots, but he was annoyed at players for not trying, for not giving the effort. And then you talk about even with Rutherford's what Rutherford was talking about, right? How this team is 1 or 2 players away. Like, that's a lot of noise prior to during the holiday season, right? To like wake up the boys, and they handled it. They did it. They worked really hard against Colorado right after, and there's reason to be a skeptic because they have been inconsistent with their effort. But again, Sherwood is the one that scored the 3 goals. He's the hardest worker. It just felt as if there might be a cultural shift happening with the Vancouver Canucks because it's the holidays and magic happens. And I think from this point on, we're going to see only one more horrid performance for the Vancouver Canucks over the next 50 games because they're just human beings, but they've already reached their quota. They've reached their quota for a good hockey team. Like, I don't think any great hockey team that wins the Stanley Cup. Maybe I'm wrong. I got to check the Florida stats from last year or Vegas from a couple years ago. They're not getting their ass kicked almost 10 times a year. The Canucks are almost there. They've gotten their ass kicked 7 times this year.
Yeah.
It's
And
done.
I mean, there are the outliers like the St. Louis situation and whatnot, but in general, I mean, look, the Canucks, I don't think they got their ass kicked this many times last year, right? In 82 games, look at where they are at the 30 game mark. So, Ian Cole kind of said it last year. In good hockey teams, they bounce back, and they probably don't have performances like this again. And again, this has happened more than it has last season, which leads to the weird vibes, which leads to the questions about the locker room, which leads to the questions about coaching. But all of that can be solved with some good hockey. Okay. Let's wrap up on a strong note here on Locked On Canucks. Touch quickly on the roster moves, get to a couple more comments. You're listening to Locked On Canucks, your Canucks every freaking day, man. We'll be back on the other side after show to get our friends at FanDuel. All right, whether it's NHL, NFL, pickleball, badminton, make sure you go place your bets on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. In the FanDuel Sportsbook app, they do it all, baby. And they give you everything you need to place live bets on sports all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, go check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Go to FanDuel.com to join today. And for tomorrow night's matchup against the Utah Hockey Club, because Vancouver's first matchup against Utah HC, they are slight underdogs on the road against Utah. If you're liking that, go check it out on FanDuel.com. Again, new customers bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if you win that $5 bet on FanDuel.com.
Okay, we back doing this, and that's talking about your Vancouver Canucks here on Locked On Canucks. One love to the Don't Does Art Lab, and one love to Trevor Beggs, okay? The second best dad in the world. And before I ask him how he's doing, let's read another comment, okay? This one is it's making me think a lot, okay? And again, PDG just got called up. I think Carlson did as well. And you're obviously going to connect that with Höglander. But look at this comment from SK93, okay? What are you guys' thoughts on a Höglander for Capo Kako swap? Kako seems to like he wants out and might be a better fit in Tocchet's system. If it's not Capo, do you think there's a chance that the Canucks view Höglander as like, one of those assets where you flip him for somebody in the same age group, same type of potential, you know what I'm saying? Well, Kako's potential is bigger than Höglander, but I'm saying like for months it's been Höglander and a pick for a rental. Do you think it's Höglander for, again, this type of asset where there's still a lot of potential? Because I think it's going to happen, bro. I think something's going to happen.
Those trades are tough to pull off. That's why they don't happen often. You really got to get two GMs on the same page, and it's a matter of like who believes they're right. Yeah, and for a Höglander for Kako swap, I think the Canucks would have to add. I mean, look at Kako this season. He's got 4 goals and 14 points. Höglander has 2 goals and 5 points, right? So,
of course.
And plus, like you said, Kako has the higher pedigree overall.
Mm-hmm.
The Canucks have to add to that. Like, what are you comfortable adding? Is it like a 2nd-round pick in Höglander for Kako? Are you interested in doing that? Because I think it's probably something in that ballpark. And yeah, for Capo Kako, for those who don't know, he got healthy scratched by the Rangers. I believe it was last night or over the weekend, and he voiced some displeasure about it, especially since that line, the third line of the Rangers with Will Cooley, Kako has been one of the better lines for that team so far this season. So, look, I'm interested in it. If it's Höglander and like a 2nd for Kako, I mean, I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it.
You know what? In commenters, let us know in the comments after this video goes up, and on the podcast side, just join the Discord. Link in the bio. Get in on this, okay? So, and Beggs, you're the homework guy. I wonder who's out there that's not the defenseman version of Capo Kako, but the defenseman version of Nils Höglander. Yeah,
I'd have to do my homework on that one. I'm trying to think of a guy who's struggling right now. I mean, like,
what if this team wants, like, they've had some duds, Mikheyev, Curtis Lazar experiment. Vincent Desharnais, definitely like just losses, right? But again, they've hit home runs, like the biggest home runs with Pius Suter and Kiefer Sherwood, right?
Yeah.
What if they can do the same with somebody on the back end for Höglander? I don't know who that guy is, but that would be entertaining.
It would be entertaining, and yeah, I don't have the guy either. But one of the things I did want to dive into maybe later this week, Kyle, is we haven't really talked much about Jim Rutherford's conversation on Hockey Night in Canada. And
Do it.
he mentioned it. This team, he believes that they're a couple players away from being a contender. So who are those couple of players? I think that's something that you and I should dive into tomorrow or later this week here on Locked On Canucks.
While you brought that up again, let me hockey nerd out with you, okay? Or just philosophy nerd out with you. Rick Tocchet, like the whole thing about Tocchet, Rutherford in recent history voicing their displeasure. Even Alvin again a couple weeks ago, calling your team for not being humble it's a pretty strong statement, okay, from your boss. It just is. That's scary, And then we saw Tocchet yesterday talk for like 2 minutes after the game, a pretty big win against Colorado, and he literally was up there for 2 minutes. Like, I'm not answering a lot of questions. Like, I don't know. What's your thoughts on all that and the relationship between, again, the thoughts of the leaders of the Canucks and the stories based on what they've said?
Yeah, I mean, that's a touch one, man. To back to Rick Tocchet quickly. I mean, I've always loved Rick Tocchet's insights for the game. From a leadership standpoint, I think he's a pretty damn good leader. I just think sometimes maybe a lot of leaders get kind of headstrong in their own ways. And I think he's kind of reverted back to, I don't know if his message isn't getting through, if the system isn't working, but it's one of those two things right now.
I think it's the message. I think it's
the message too, because when you hear him talk in press conferences, he wants the team to carry the puck more. He doesn't want them to dump the chase. So
Tocchet's too prideful to be lying about that. Tocchet's too prideful to be like, he wouldn't, because he's a hockey nerd. He wants to tell people like what he's trying to do and all this stuff.
He doesn't need the money, right? He's not worried about his job.
Exactly, man. And I think it's his messaging not getting through and his leading not being heard, I guess. And I don't really blame. I mean, I put some blame on Tocchet only because it's his job to like get that done, though, right? That's why you're here. You got to get that done. You got to figure out a way to lead this team, get them to listen again, all that jazz. But again, this kind of touches on the top of this episode, and some people believing that like this rift between Pettersson and Miller is actually causing some on ice problems now. That's immature as F, and it would be immature. I can't believe I said as F. That's come on, immature as puck. Okay, I think it would also be so immature, but also likely for a team that's never won before to have this much experience losing and not a lot winning to tune out a coach that has championship pedigree so early. Like, again, that stuff involving Pettersson and Miller, if there's anything, blah, 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 if that's getting in the way of the messaging from Tocchet, because now it's the locker room vibes are off. Dude, shut up. You're there to win games. You're there to win. This is an opportunity. You know what I'm saying? A big time opportunity to learn from one of the best. And Adam Foote, and oh yeah, I got to keep bringing him up because it matters. Look at the way Quinn Hughes is playing. You guys are playing with one of the best players in hockey right now. And if you're letting some BS get in the way of, reaching your dreams, and your dreams are attainable, because not often are you going to be able to play with, again, one of the best players during this generation. McDavid, McKinnon in the league. Quinn Hughes is doing it. He's that dog. He's able to block out the noise and bring his best effort game in and game out, and pass the puck to his teammate. You know what I'm saying? Like, this situation, to me, if there is anything, I hope that it's like nipped right away, or again, like these two or just the room in general can ignore, again, all the noise that even we're making, and just realize like, in that room, the pieces are there. And we got like Rick Tocchet, the mother. This guy's one of the coolest guys in hockey history, played with some of the best, won championships. He might know a thing or two about offense too. Again, look at the points. This whole notion that this guy wants to play defense is like, I actually believe it when he says, like, I'm not telling these guys to dump it in. I believe him. Look at the stats straight up. And again, look at the way Quinn Hughes is playing. And Demko too. Like, Demko risked his life to come back in the playoff. Not his life. Okay, not his life. Okay, he risked his hockey career.
Life or death.
Last April and May to come back in late May to play, right? Like that could have ended his career. Who knows? Like the papalitis papatuous, right? Again, find a cure for papatuous, man. Straight up. He's come. We got dogs in the room. Ignore the BS and just win some hockey games, man. The recipe's there.
The recipe is there, and according to our listeners here in the YouTube live chat on Locked On, just a good old group shower among teammates would heal everything. A bunch of horn dogs in the comments. They're
Vegas, honestly, get your ass kicked in Vegas. Screw it, man. Like, honestly, no. How about this? Don't play a bad game in Vegas, but get Lankin or Demko to win you the game. And then after the Canucks media team, again, they gotta roll out the photos of these guys just going hard in the paint in Vegas. That would, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Winning fixes everything, and a good party does so too, man.
Yeah, even if you lose against the Senators, they're my second favorite team. So Canucks, beat Vegas, go party hard, and if you lose against Ottawa, it is what it is, baby. I keep believing in this team here. I know there's some questions about it, but it was a good conversation today, Kyle. Coming up later this week, we will preview the road trip ahead, a bit more in depth, Utah and Vegas coming up for that quick roadie for the Canucks. We'll also get into Jim Rutherford's comments and what players could they be targeting via trade. It's a couple of defensemen. Is a defenseman a forward? We'll give our takes on that as well. But for now, we got to get out of here. So shout out to you and you for tuning in to this episode of Locked On Canucks. If you like what we're doing, subscribe and like this video on YouTube on the podcast. Go follow us and leave a 5-star review. For now, we got to get out of here. Appreciate y'all. My name is Trevor Beggs. That guy's Cal Bound. And you've been listening to Locked On Canucks.
Peace.